Well, it's January, and to mark the new year, many of us are making resolutions to eat right and exercise more. And during this year of mercy, it can also be a good time to vow to get more spiritual exercise. Peggy Weber returns now to tell us about a special movement dedicated to Mary that offers a wonderful opportunity for prayer and growth.
The 100th anniversary of a Marian movement that is known around the globe was celebrated in the Diocese of Springfield. Founded in 1914, the SCHOENSTATT movement has become one of the most popular Marian devotions in the world. Locally, devotees of the movement and parishioners of Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Parish in Westfield gathered for a special Mass marking the centennial. The SCHOENSTATT movement was founded October 18, 1914, by a young Palatine priest named Father Joseph Kentenich. He gathered seminarians together in prayer, asking them to make a covenant with the Blessed Mother that would help them to live a holy life and foster a devotion to Mary. The SCHOENSTATT movement was formally approved by the Catholic Church in 1964. Father Dan Pekalik says that devotion to Mary is a central part of the Catholic faith.
The devotion to Mary is such a part of our Catholic faith, and in the SCHOENSTATT movement, as I understand it, developing a real relationship with Mary because she is the mother of Jesus, and knowing that by growing closer to her, you grow closer to Jesus. The covenant of love that is part of the SCHOENSTATT community is a very important devotion. It's a consecration that members make to Mary and to Jesus.
Today, there are more than 200 replica shrines around the world, and the Westfield chapter owns one of those altars. In 2013, Father Dan agreed to house the altar in the church for a year. This was the first time in the movement's history that a SCHOENSTATT shrine was housed in a church.
We've had the altar here in the church for the last year, and we're celebrating today the closing of that year. So it is a more somber day in that the particular image of Mary is leaving the church. But being a Marian parish, we certainly know that Mary always dwells with us.
Bridget Malloy, who brought the SCHOENSTATT message to Massachusetts more than 50 years ago, says she greatly appreciated the gesture by Father Dan to allow the altar to be placed in the church for the centennial year.
It was beyond my wildest expectation, out of the blue. I cannot tell you the joy when I walked in here and saw the shrine.
Consecrating oneself to Mary, according to Bridget, involves making what is called a covenant of love, a commitment to Mary and Jesus. As part of the 100th anniversary, participants in Westfield and around the world renewed their covenant of love while encouraging others to become involved. Sister Georgina Ramirez, a SCHOENSTATT Sister of Mary, who resides at a SCHOENSTATT house on Staten Island, New York, told Reel to Reel that she was enthralled with the covenant of love as soon as she heard about it.
It was such a beautiful idea. I really fell in love with it. So I decided to make my covenant of love with the Blessed Mother. After my covenant of love, I also decided to become one of the sisters because I wanted to dedicate myself completely to her.
Sister Georgina says dedication to Mary and Jesus through SCHOENSTATT allows for many graces to be bestowed.
This movement wants to bring a movement of grace into the whole Catholic Church and the world. Nowadays, people don't value graces anymore. We are very much interested in material things, and grace, we have given like a second place or even a third or fourth, who knows.
In the early 1960s, Bridget lived in Milwaukee with her husband and young children. In her parish church there, on display, was a large mosaic of the SCHOENSTATT image, known as the Blessed Mother, thrice admirable.
She's admirable as the daughter of the Father. She's admirable as the mother of the Son. And she's admirable as the spouse of the Holy Spirit. So she's 3 times admirable.
While at the parish in Milwaukee, Bridget met Father Kentenich and quickly became very involved in the SCHOENSTATT movement. But shortly thereafter, the family moved to Massachusetts. In the early 1970s, Bridget had a chance encounter with Linda Burrell, who soon became the first woman in Massachusetts to enroll in the movement. Linda still encourages people to consider making a covenant with the Blessed Virgin Mary.
That's the core of the movement. Everything else is secondary, to make that covenant with the Blessed Mother. And a covenant is so beautiful because this is God's way. He chose the method of covenant throughout salvation history.
Linda, a lifetime parishioner at Blessed Sacrament, spoke to the congregation about the movement and encouraged them to foster a closer relationship with Mary by joining the movement. Today, Bridget lives in Agawam and belongs to St. John the Evangelist parish there. She says that while so very many graces come from this covenant with the Lord, she knows that hardships are also part of every life. But Bridget says staying closer to the Lord allows people to handle hardships.
So first thing in the morning, I make my dedication and one to the Heavenly Father. And then we go about the day. We promise, we ask always, how can you use me today? And please make me alert to what you want me to do. So we live out of those dedications.
Linda says that being so dedicated to her Catholic faith, and particularly Mary, has helped her through many trials and tribulations, including the death of her husband after his long battle with cancer.
Going through all these events, I don't believe that I could have gone through it with the spirit that I had without the Blessed Mother, behind me and supporting me. And as I said today in my talk, that she gives us what we need. She knows who we are personally and then gives us what we need. And I did make it through those awful events, and here I am. But thanks be to God and thanks to Blessed Mother and the many graces that she gives.
Following the Mass at Blessed Sacrament, the shrine was dismantled and is now only partially reconstructed at a modest home that members own near the parish, called a movement house. Members are looking to raise the roof of the home's garage, literally. They plan to raise funds to renovate the garage, removing the roof and making room for the full-size altar there so that it can be continually on display. Reporting for Reel to Reel, this is Peggy Weber.